Hey, welcome to the show. I'm John F. Gately, and it is Monday, March 6th. It is not a bad day for March here in beautiful Plymouth, America's hometown. It's sunny, blue skies, and about 47 degrees. About 47 degrees in beautiful Plymouth. There is a light breeze, not that bad. I hope that you had a nice weekend. I enjoyed the auto racing quite a bit. Saturday was a nasty day, but Sunday I also stayed inside, although I did take a walk down to the beach. But great auto racing. The F1 earlier there, not so much. The IndyCar race from St. Petersburg, Florida, that was spectacular. That was the race of the day. And the NASCAR race was okay. And the fastest car ended up winning. Byron won. But I hope that you had a great weekend. We're back in the office here at the studio, and we're going to bring up what everyone is talking about. And, it's nice to be vindicated, right? I remember this time when several years ago here in Massachusetts, behind enemy lines, if you said that Elizabeth Warren was a fake Indian, then you were just pummeled upon by just about everybody in Massachusetts because that was unspeakable. You couldn't say that Elizabeth Warren was a fake Indian, but it ended up to be true, right? She actually did herself in this particular case. And that's how I feel about the whole lab leak situation that's going on now. At one point you were a crazy nut conspiracy theorist, and now you're probably right, or if not probably right, it's now at least a mainstream theory. When the FBI director says, "Yeah, that's a pretty decent theory," things have come around. Now, what we're seeing is basically the real conspiracy. And the real conspiracy was from Dr. Fauci to try to cover his tracks and his culpability, both morally and otherwise, in regards to where this virus came from and how it came out. So let's just quickly go to the New York Post. Miranda Devine, you could get this story pretty much anywhere. And we're going to take a look at what the chairman of the committee said the other day with Maria Bartiromo. But I was hoping just to quickly quote this New York Post article, which is being a little fussy. So don't be surprised if it crashes on me. There it goes right there. Thank you. Right on cue. New emails uncovered by House Republicans probing the COVID-19 pandemic reveal the deceptive nature of Dr. Fauci. They show he prompted or commissioned and had final approval on a scientific paper written specifically in February of 2020 that basically directed scientists to disprove the lab theory. Why would that be important to Dr. Fauci? Well, let's listen to Jim Jordan, who is the chief investigator, so to speak. By the way, I don't know about you, but like Jim Jordan, he's not the best messenger. And last person I'm to criticize in terms of attire, but why doesn't he ever wear a suit jacket? I don't know. This is his look, I guess. This is my look from Walmart. And yeah, I know you love it. By the way, I don't see Pete Buttigieg at Kohl's or TJ Maxx very often, but apparently he was trying to be elitist, saying these people never even go to a TJ. TJ Maxx and Kohl's, they're just a step up from where most Americans shop for clothes, which is Walmart. I go to Walmart by choice. I could probably go to I could go to other stores, fortunate that way. But I go to Walmart so they're comfy little t-shirts. I love them. I did go to Kohl's last Thursday to buy a new pair of jeans because I had lost a few pounds. Thank you very much. And I did not see Pete Buttigieg here. But let's see what there. But let's see what, fortunately, let's see what Jim Jordan has to say. Come on, Jim, you can do it. Oh, boy, we're going to have to refresh on this. Sorry about that. iPad acting up a little bit today. Let's see here.
Congressman. Jim Jordan. Mr. Chairman, thanks very much for being here.
Good to be with you, Maria.
You've got two upcoming hearings this week, the subcommittee on COVID, and then, of course, the weaponization of government. What are we going to learn this week, do you think?
Well, first on the COVID issue, understand that on January 31st, 10:32 p.m., 2020. So right at the get.
Okay, so at the end of January 2020. If you can kind of flash yourself back to that, I remember going to the office in Boston at that time and was just there for a short time that day. And I was kind of like, I remember, or late January, I kind of like, oh, I don't want to get too close. I don't want to give you the virus. You know, people were joking about the virus in January 2020. But of course, a government official is going to be way ahead, especially somebody in the position of like Dr. Fauci is going to be way ahead of where the general public is. And so in late January, Jim Jordan explains.
Dr. Fauci gets an email from Dr. Christian Andersen, which says virus looks engineered, virus not consistent with evolutionary theory. The next day, he gets another email from Dr. Gary. Now, these are doctors he's handed out our tax dollars to over the years. Dr. Gary's email says, I don't know how this happens in nature. It would be easy to do in a lab. That's
easy to do in a lab, not consistent with evolutionary theory. Oh, that should get your attention, right? That should get your attention as a red flag. But let's see what Dr. Fauci does with it. Oh boy, it's not working. Oh, no, it's really not working. Well, this is very frustrating and embarrassing. Forgive me for a second. I know we have thousands of watchers right now. Actually, nobody's watching. So perfect. We'll hit refresh the page. Hopefully that will fix it. Oh, we've got a lot of swirling marks. Okay.
Congressman Jim Jordan. Mr. Chairman, thanks very much. Chairman, here.
Well, this is quite embarrassing. Good thing no one's watching.
Congressman Jim Jordan. Mr. Chairman, thanks very much for being here.
Good to be with you, Maria.
You've got
2020. So right at the get-go,
right,
Dr. Fauci gets an email from Dr. Christian Andersen, which says virus looks engineered, virus not consistent with evolutionary theory. The next day, he gets another email from Dr. Gary. Now, these are doctors he's handed out our tax dollars to over the years. Dr. Gary's email says, I don't know how this happens in nature. It would be easy to do in a lab. That same day, February 1st, 2020. So again, right at the start, that same day, Dr. Fauci organizes a conference call. Him and Dr. Collins get on there with Dr. Gary, Dr. Anderson, all these other virologists. They get on there, and 3 days later, everybody changes their story. The same guy who said this would be easy to do in a lab says, oh, now you're.
3 days later, everyone changes their story. Huh, I wonder why. This worked fine before. Not working well now. Oh boy. All right, we'll hit refresh one more time and then we'll give it a break. Then we'll move on.
Our tax dollars to over the years. Dr. Gary's email says, I don't know how this happens in nature. It would be easy to do in a lab. That same day, February 1st, 2020. So again, right at the start, that same day, Dr. Fauci organizes a conference call. Him and Dr. Collins get on there with Dr. Gary, Dr. Anderson, all these other virologists. They get on there, and 3 days later, everybody changes their story. The same guy who said this would be easy to do in a lab says, oh, now you're crazy if you think it came from a lab. The same guy that says, I don't know how this looks engineered. He changes his story. And then the kicker is 3 months later, those same two doctors, Dr. Anderson and Dr. Gary, get a several million dollar grant from Dr. Fauci to continue their research. So the fundamental question is, why was Dr. Fauci so consumed with making sure the narrative wasn't about the lab? I think it's because they were doing gain of function research there. He didn't want that out. And that was the narrative that everyone on the left bought into, even though the facts and common sense, maybe most importantly, pointed to the lab leak theory.
I mean, this is something that we should all agree on.
Yeah.
Let's get to the bottom of this disease, this virus that killed 7 million people across the world. I don't understand the media immediately going with this Democrat narrative and the CCP narrative rather than forcing for an investigation.
Yeah, why not just give us the facts, be transparent with this, but understand with this virus, they have told us all kinds of things that turned out to be false. I mean, they told us it didn't come from a lab. Now, again, it looks like it sure did because the Department of Energy, FBI, everyone says it came from a lab. Now, they said it wasn't gain of function research. Sure looks like it was.
Sure looks.
They said it wasn't our tax dollars used at that Wuhan Institute of Virology. Yes, they were through EcoHealth. They went there. And then, of course, they told us that the vaccinated couldn't get it. The vaccinated couldn't transmit it. They told us that there was no such thing as natural immunity. This would be the first virus in history where there's no such thing as natural immunity. So time and time again, they told us things that were not accurate. The fundamental question is why? What was was it politics motivating them or what?
When Jim Jordan adds up all of those lies and you start to get really angry, don't you? I mean, and you realize that many of those things were not good faith mistakes. They were actually purposeful lies. And I think what Jordan is pointing to, and I'm just going to get rid of that tab. Hopefully my iPad will start to behave. I think what Jordan is pointing to here is that in these emails, there appears to be a quid pro quo, a trade. You change your mind on where this virus came from, and I'll continue to give you grant money. You see, when you have a government official like Fauci, who's been entrenched for so long, he was there for 30-something years. He controls all the purse strings for dozens, hundreds, maybe even thousands of scientists across the country, even the world. That is an incredibly powerful position. And the real long-term strategic mistake is letting somebody stay in that position for decades, right? That is a big-time mistake. He should have been gone. I know you don't want to lose talented people. I get that. But at some point, you got to move on because the power needs to be redistributed in the swamp, so to speak. And he was the big frog in the healthcare research swamp, and he should have been gone a long time ago. All right, so if you go over to Zero Hedge, Fauci prompted scientists to fabricate paper ruling out lab leak. Now, the reason why I bring this up here is because I want to bring up the page of the report that Jim Jordan was talking about, where it indicates, and we're going to get in a little bit more depth here, the evidence available to the select committee suggests that Dr. Fauci prompted Dr. Anderson, professor at Scripps Research, to write the proximal study. And the goal was to disprove any lab leak theory, not to write a study and, find out whatever you can and report back, but instead to disprove the lab leak theory. Why would he do that? Why would Fauci want to disprove that? Well, because the bottom line is, if you haven't been following the bouncing ball as Zero Hedge mentions it, basically what's been happening here is the Chinese at the lab were conducting gain of function research on virus. What is gain of function? It's basically when you fiddle with the DNA to add an additional functionality to the virus. This can be incredibly dangerous if you create the wrong type of functionality, which apparently was done here. So they were doing that in the lab. The weird part is that the United States, through Dr. Fauci, he was funding this research. in China. So the United States was funding research at a lab in China. Now that's where it should have stopped, like right off the bat. Why are we funding any research of any kind? I don't care about, whether it's about how to make a better brick or microchips or whatever. Why are we funding any type of research at any lab in China? I can't even get by that to begin with. But why would we ever fund gain of function research in a lab in China? That makes no sense, except it kind of does if you're Dr. Fauci. You see, he realized that in 2014, the Obama administration forbade gain of function research in the United States. So Fauci had to go a different route to get this research done. And the way he did that was to fund the EcoHealth Alliance. He issued grants to the EcoHealth Alliance, and then the EcoHealth Alliance spent money at the lab. Now, Jack, that's not a direct question, and they swore they weren't doing it. I know that, but money is a fungible thing, right? Money is a fungible thing, and why would you be studying anything at a Chinese lab? And if you're going to be doing it, why would you fund anything even close to gain of function research at a Chinese lab? You remember, of course, that James O'Keefe, he just basically got the Pfizer executive to admit that they were still doing gain of function. The Pfizer is doing gain of function research now, right? Remember that? That was just last month. Now James O'Keefe, he's off to bigger and better things. God bless him. So the reason why Fauci wants to quash this is quite clear. If you're not following the dots here, he wants to quash this lab leak theory because he funded it. And I think maybe later on today, there is a 7-page document here. I think we pulled this up on the page, which you can go over the entire thing. We will not do that right now, but we might do a deep dive on this congressional document from the select subcommittee on coronavirus pandemic. We might go through that later today. We'll see how I feel about it. All right, next up. Bring up the next item. I have got to get a new iPad or something like that. I don't know. This is not working out. I might go to Walmart and buy an iPad today. You'll also remember that as Glenn Greenwald, nice job here, Glenn. Everyone, as soon as Fauci came out with this, it didn't come from a lab, everyone jumped on board. And here is the New York Times reporter at the time, their chief COVID reporter. Someday we will stop talking about lab leak theory and maybe even admit its racist roots. But alas, that day is not here yet. And Glenn Greenwald captions this: probably the most incredible media fact, one so shameful the New York Times has to ignore it, is that the Times lead COVID reporter maligned the lab leak theory as racist, only for key parts of the U.S. government to now admit it's a likely explanation. Fauci gave the orders and they obeyed. What is probably much more racist is to imply that the wet market, where, those Chinese, they're all, they can't have a healthy marketplace. It's the wet market where they do all those practices. Basically, by the way, a wet market, I believe, if you can correct me if I'm wrong, a wet market is where they actually butcher the animal on site and sell it on site. So where the butchering and the sale all occurs, the retail sale all occurs. It's much more racist to imply that market is a place where a pangolin would kiss a turtle, as Jon Stewart said. It's much more racist to suggest that than to suggest it would come from a lab. Let me just say that again. It's much more racist to suggest it might come from some dirty Chinese marketplace than it might come from a lab. All right. Let's move on to a sad story out of the Pacific Northwest. Troopers say suspect in Sunnyvale crash that killed 2 children wasn't stopped earlier because of the state pursuit law. From the Yakima Herald Republic, March 1st. Washington State State Trooper first spotted a man accused of killing 2 children in a drunk driving crash, speeding an hour before. The trooper couldn't stop Keith Goings because of a state law that restricts police pursuits. Under current legislative law, which was adopted as a result of the Floyd situation, the defund the police BLM situation, does not give enough probable cause to start a pursuit, Trooper Chris Thorson said Wednesday. Goings, 20, of Springfield, Missouri, was first spotted driving east on 90 at 111 miles per hour before he exited the highway. Because Goings was only speeding, troopers could not engage in the pursuit because he was only speeding. Only at 111 miles an hour on the highway, but he was only speeding, so they couldn't pursue him. Roughly an hour later, Goings apparently back on Interstate 82 near Sunnyside, heading west, when his 2007 Ford Mustang collided with a 2012 Nissan Altima heading east, killing 2 children, ages 6 and 8. In 2021, as part of the police reform package drafted in the wake of killing of George Floyd by a Minneapolis police officer, the legislature passed House Bill 1054, requiring officers to have probable cause when someone committed certain crimes before pursuing them. The bill's proponents argued that it improves public safety by reducing the number of high-speed chases that endanger suspects, officers, and bystanders. You know, just for not for nothing, but I don't really care if someone's going 111. I don't really care if the suspect is further endangered by the high-speed chase. Yeah, so that's just how I feel about officers and bystanders. I care about suspects. I don't really care. If they're already going 111, I don't really care whether they hit a bridge abutment. Law enforcement officials have disagreed, saying that more people are driving off from the police. The 2021 law requires police to know that someone is more likely than not a suspect of a crime. So it's not good enough that they're driving 111, endangering others, reckless driving, all that is. They have had to committed, and you have had reasonable probable cause to believe that they had committed a crime prior to their speeding, which seems ridiculous. State laws are considering a bill that would restore the pursuit rules back. Oh, that's nice. You know, it's this article, which also reminded me of what happened over the weekend in Florida. If you haven't seen it, this is a video of a pursuit in Florida of ever see these motorcycle and dirt bike like roving gangs? It's something like straight out of like some Marlon Brando movie. What are you rebelling against? What do you got? And let's just pull up this video here. This is the dash cam video in Florida. We're gonna. This is just totally priceless. We're gonna.
It could be right here at the traffic light.
A bunch of knuckleheads.
And if they get the light, we can just jump out and grab it. Because the only one with a white helmet.
This is just really juicy. I wish that they could have done this. Oh, here he is. Here he just flipped off the cops. Boom! He got hit by a truck. And you can see all his other reckless motorbike buddies here. Can we see that again? That was too priceless.
And if they get the light, we can just jump out
He flips
and
off
grab
the cops.
it. It says the only one with a white helmet.
White helmet.
Yep, tempo.
Boom. Flip him off. Boom. Oh, that. He did not die. He did not die. But watch what happens next. And you can see he's part of this like gang of other.
We got one running to the border. He's going underneath the bridge. You guys understand?
Sheriff's K-9, get on the ground! Do it now! Get on the ground!
Yes, sir.
Hands
I'm hurt. I got hurt.
Turn over! Put your hands behind your back.
Sir, I
Give
got
me
it.
your hands. Shut up.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We got him.
Idiot.
I know.
Yeah, you know. Stay on your
Sir,
belly.
sir, my leg.
Stay on your belly.
Yes, sir. Look like you were running pretty good, me. Oh my God.
So this is the guy that just got hit by the truck, and when he got hit by the truck, he ran, and now he's complaining that he's not feeling very well.
Fuck! Oh my God. Sir,
Hey,
you've got to hold my
We
right
got
leg
a
up.
rescue coming to you.
Yes. That was dumb. That was dumb.
You think?
Then he tried to run. Now he's his legs back. Oh yeah, ran just fine.
Street? Yeah.
Look at it. Are you guys kidding me? Seems like you ran pretty good from there to here. But it fucking hurt. Well, no sure.
I'm sorry, I somehow passed.
Like that's how it doesn't.
It looks like he's got a pretty big black and blue on that leg.
Understood, but I'm in pain right now. Well, don't run from the sheriff's office. Then you won't crash your bike. This is funny? No, I don't think it's funny. I think it's incredibly stupid. But I'm with a group of people. They all kept going. What am I supposed to be doing? You crashed, and then
I'm with a group of people that all kept going. Do you think this is funny? No, it's incredibly stupid.
started to run all the way over here. We're being chased by 12 cops in the middle of the road. Oh, no. What am I supposed to do? Stop and figure out why
We're being chased by 12 cops. What am I supposed to do? I don't know. Stop. Right? This guy's dumb.
Hold on. What's your first name? Joshua. I was the one that was behind you guys on Old Dixie. Lit you up. All right.
Joshua's a knucklehead. And I wish that the state troopers out in Washington State were able to chase this guy down, and because he was already going 111 miles an hour. So I don't agree with, but I can understand the argument. If somebody is traveling 60 miles an hour and they are wanted for some type of crime, then I can understand how you might not want to chase them and cause them to go much faster. I don't agree with that theory, but I understand the idea behind that. The guy that killed the two little kids in Washington State on Interstate 82, he was already going 111 miles an hour when he went by the state trooper. They must have had him on the radar gun. So he's already at an accelerated speed before the trooper starts to chase him. At that point, you've got to say to yourself, how much faster can he go? You know, and if he was able to track that guy down and arrest him, then maybe those two little kids would still be alive today. All right. Let's talk about the war in the Ukraine and how it's affecting our own national defense. Lack of machine tools is holding back ammo production, Army says. And what is that at stake here is the production of 155 millimeter artillery shells. The article from Defense One goes into significant detail about how the facts that we have the materials and the steel to make the material, the arterial cells, but we don't necessarily have the factory, so to speak, and the machine tools and everything that would require us to make enough. And the Ukrainians are burning through massive amounts of stockpiles. The U.S. already maintains large stockpiles of some key raw materials, such as the precursor chemicals for the explosive. But how much of the other raw materials the U.S. should keep in reserve is an open question. The issue is really stockpiling. It's really a question of how much can you afford to do. The U.S. has no shortage of raw materials for arterial shell manufacture, citing the multiple adequate supplies of steel. But the question is production. Can we actually make them? And kind of the unspoken question in this article is, are some of the machine parts / computers / microchips that would make artillery shell manufacturing facility, are some of them made in China, right? Like, I don't think anybody wants to suggest that, and certainly I don't think the Pentagon would ever want to suggest that we can't make enough shells. But that's what this article says, that we can't make enough shells, or it's getting very dangerous. U.S. officials said in April 2022 they were ramping up production of 155 millimeter shells, the most common caliber of the U.S. and NATO artillery guns sent to Ukraine. Production is set to rise to 20,000 shells per month in the spring of this year, and 40,000 by the spring of 2025. Even at that rate, though, that may not be enough to support Ukraine and keep U.S. inventories prepped for other wars across the globe. This could become a crisis. And somewhere in here, they actually tell you how many shells Ukrainians are burning through on I thought they gave us they're burning through 1,000 shells a day. 1,000 shells. Now, this is the type of thing that, and I'm no military expert, so don't take my word on, but I'm aware of the phrase, how does that phrase go? We would have won the war if we had one more shell. We would have had, but we couldn't get the shell there because we didn't have the truck, and the truck was missing the tire, and the guy was hungry and he didn't have a meal. Whatever that cliche is, there's a lot to it. Everyone has to do their job. But you really can't win a war without artillery shells. And why we're sending so many to the Ukraine, that's another topic, because I'm not a big fan of that. But more importantly, why would we ever put ourselves, the United States, in a position where we might not have enough shells to defend ourselves and or distribute to our other bases across the world? Why would we ever be in a position where we might not? Right? I'm not saying that we don't, but even where it's possible for such a critical military item. All right, Michael Beschloss has once again lost his mind. So, oh boy, let's see if we can bring in Michael here. He's a little out of time.
But the even more dangerous thing, Stacey and Michael, is that, people who try to get a nomination in parties, do it by trying to appeal to what they think will work. Well, look what Rick DeSantis has done in Florida.
Rick DeSantis, he can't even get the first, he can't even get the name right.
He was known as sort of a nondescript political leader, member of Congress. Suddenly, he really has tried to turn himself into sort of a local Mussolini in Florida.
Rick DeSantis, he's a Mussolini. Beschloss, he's supposed to be a historian. He's supposed to bring things in for a historian, but now he's just a nut job. That's all he is. He's lost total credibility.
Book banning and the
Okay, they didn't burn books. What they did say was that there are some books that are not appropriate for children. It's not that you can't go get the book or buy the book. It's Bostonians. Remember, we used to ban books and ban movies and that in Boston. Banned in Boston. It's that we just didn't think it was appropriate for some school-age children.
Tactics, and even this week, this suggestion that bloggers have to register with the state for the honor of writing about the governor. And
okay, so that's a really good point. I'm glad that I don't know if anyone's looked into this, but this is a piece of legislation, a proposal, a bill that did not come from DeSantis, but came and was sponsored by one Florida state senator. That if you're it's totally unconstitutional. Everybody knows it. And it's not going anywhere. And for somebody that's theoretically credible to suggest, like Michael Beschloss is supposed to be theoretically credible, to suggest that DeSantis is in favor of this, and not even to do any research. It takes like 3 seconds on the internet to figure out who's in favor of that bill. And obviously it's unconstitutional.
Other political leaders, we have to call this what this is. This is fascism and authoritarianism that goes even beyond what Trump has talked about.
he's worse than Trump. If Trump is Hitler, DeSantis is like super Hitler, right? That's what I heard on Twitter today. None of what Beschloss just said is true. And to the fact that they have this guy, even on television, you could do better. I could do better. Pretty much anybody could do better. He's just labeling everyone. Where do they come from? You know, what really is happening here, and you can see it throughout the landscape, is that so many people that say we're defending democracy, they're the fascists, they're projecting, right? It's actually them. All right. So anyways, sorry for the technical difficulty today. Well, we might have to get a new iPad or something like that. But in the meantime, I'm John F. Gately from Plymouth, America's hometown in Massachusetts. Behind enemy lines. Have a great day. Bye-bye.